The Travel Transformation podcast is proud to be partnered with Give the Goodness Global, an amazing global outreach project helping families in need all over Southeast Asia and beyond. Please check them out at Instagram.com/Give the Goodness Global today. And now on to the podcast episode.
Welcome to the Travel Transformation podcast, the podcast that explores the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply want to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, travel transformation coach, founder of Flip the Script Travel Transformation Services, and your host for the Travel Transformation podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation. Today I'm talking to Tricia Sexton, a life and travel coach with over 10 years of international travel experience. She works with people who desire to move abroad or take a sabbatical from work, helping them to travel the world and empowering them to find purpose and meaning in their life through transformational travel experiences. In this episode, we talk about volunteering, using travel to build your confidence and to overcome your limiting beliefs, and how life coaching can help you look to the future and set goals to help you achieve awesome things. And we share our favourite magical movie moments from the road, which is always one of my favourite parts. So let's get straight to the podcast. Hi, Tricia, and welcome to the Travel Transformation podcast. How are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Really good. So, for our listeners, please can you give me a little bit of background info on you, what you do, and where you're from as well?
Yeah, I live in Ohio in the US, which is where I'm from. It's temporary. I'm actually planning to move to Europe later this year. So, yeah, it's very exciting. And I am a life and travel coach.
Where are you moving to in Europe?
So I've been looking at the digital nomad visas that are popping up over there, and Hungary actually seems to be like the easiest, quickest, kind of more straightforward visa to get. So I was like, all right, I can live in Hungary.
Nice. Yeah, because I've obviously seen like the Spain ones and Portugal, and everyone talks about that and stuff. I've not really heard of the Hungary one though. I'm going to have to look into that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm kind of drawn to it, because not as many people are going there. And well, two things come to mind, a little sidebar. I was just living in Hawaii for the last few years, and I was very aware of like my footprint that I was leaving. Like I was contributing to the overpopulation and I mean, not that I was a tourist, but over tourism there. And I didn't like it. I mean, I loved being there, but I didn't like that aspect. So I think I'm just more conscious of that. And I hear so many people going to Portugal, and obviously Portugal would be amazing, but I'm like, I don't want to get back into that feeling that I had when I was in Hawaii. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm like, oh, Hungary. Like I don't hear anybody going there. Like I'm sure there are people, digital nomads and stuff, but I think that's why it appeals to me. And because there will be fewer expats and more local people that I can connect with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never been to Hawaii. I really want to go, but I do have that in my mind as well, that I don't want to contribute to the problem, especially if I went for like a while and was like digital nomading over there and that kind of thing. So it is always, I think it's always in the back of our minds as like travelers and remote workers and things like that, that we don't want to add to the problem. I totally get what you mean.
But Hawaii is great and you should still go.
Yeah, still on my list. Definitely still on my list. It looks so beautiful. So yeah, if you do go to Hungary and do the whole digital nomad thing, let me know. And then you can come back on the podcast and talk about it, but mainly because I'll be interested and want to know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
That sounds awesome. Okay, I am going to ask you about the travel coaching, I promise. But just before we start, how come you were living in Hawaii then? What happened there? What made you move there?
So I was living in a lot of different countries and, dealing with visas before they were kind of extended like they are now. And I kind of wanted a break from all that. And I just wanted to like be in one place without having to worry about visas and having to do visa runs. So I was like, okay, I'll move back to the US, but where would I want to move that wouldn't make me want to immediately leave again? So I was like, Hawaii seems great. And so I went there, and then it was in 2019, the end of 2019. So I got to experience like the pre-COVID Hawaii, and then, COVID hit, we went on lockdown, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just stay here because it kind of got a lot better. Like there were no tourists around, there was no traffic, the surf breaks were empty. It was it was kind of lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Some good things did come out of the pandemic, even though it was terrible.
Right.
Yeah. So how strict were the lockdowns and stuff there? Could you still go out sort of for like we could leave for like exercise and to go to the doctors, and that was about it? Like, was it strict or not too bad?
So it started out not too strict. It like they had, you couldn't be in groups of more than like 2 people, or maybe not even 2 people. And you couldn't be like stationary. So you couldn't just go to the beach and like lay out. You had to either be like walking along the beach or going into the ocean. And then we had this like huge surge of COVID cases. So then they like really went extreme, and like you couldn't go to parks. They said you couldn't go on the hiking trails, but people did because they weren't, how are they going to not let us? Yeah, police it. And then the water was free range because they can't, you can't really like put laws in the ocean, I guess.
True.
So yeah, it kind of went in waves of being like super strict and then like not too bad.
Same here. And we had some ridiculous rules at one point. It was like you could meet one friend for a coffee if you're sitting on a bench, but only if it's half an hour. And it's just it's just ridiculous rules. Anyway, so you mentioned that you're a life and travel coach. So for people who might not know how that works, obviously I've talked a lot about travel coaching on the show, but not so much about life coaching. Could you explain what it is? And then how did you first get into the whole idea of coaching, and what made you want to do it as a career?
Yeah. So, well, life coaching, I don't have like a niche in that. A lot of people, will have like a specific area that they're focusing on, but I just, if somebody's coming to me, like I have this, and this going on in my career, my relationships, my health, I work with kind of all people. And it's kind of, life coaching is a lot about kind of forward thinking and setting goals to work on your kind of current self to have a transformation and kind of where you want to be. Where I think, like kind of traditional therapy is more looking towards the past, which you can also do in life coaching, but it's a lot more kind of interactive, I would say, where it's not just like you sitting and talking to the therapist, but it's more like your life coach is guiding you, asking you questions to kind of figure it out on your own and figure out solutions that work for you, and then kind of set goals and look at where you want to be going towards. And then travel coaching, I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people already understand about that, but I'll go into specifically what I do. I work with people that either want to move to another country or they want to take a long sabbatical from work and just travel the world, but they have the fears and, the uncertainties holding them back. So I work with people to just break through those barriers so that they can have the experiences that they want to have, or they can make the leap to make the move. And I got into that specifically, that kind of niche, because I've done that myself. I was living for 2 years in Nepal, a year in Tanzania. So I've done these like longer stints of like, I'm actually going to uproot my life and move to this other country, which is scary.
Yep.
Like even now thinking about moving to Europe, like fears definitely come up. And so I think I have that kind of empathy for my clients. And just how I got into coaching in general, about 2 years ago, I started working with a life coach myself. And just having those realizations and hitting these goals so much quicker than I ever have before. I was like, oh my God, what is this magic? I want to learn what these techniques are and how I can bring it to people that need it.
Yeah, I love that. So for someone who's never done any kind of life coaching or goal setting, or like you're specifically talking about overcoming the fears, say, of moving to a different country, how do you actually even start going about trying to sort that out? You say it's like asking questions. Is it sort of trying to get to the deep root of why they're worried, and then you can sort of see what maybe options there are? Like, how would that work for someone who doesn't really understand how it works? Because I know a lot of people are reluctant to go into it just because they don't know what it entails.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Yeah, we start out with, I'm just asking you a lot of questions because, yeah, usually people come like, oh, I'm nervous because I don't know the language or something, along that line. And so then I'll ask, okay, well, what about not knowing the language scares you? And then we kind of just keep going deeper and deeper with these questions. And a lot of times within the first couple of sessions, my clients will have aha moments of like, oh, yeah. And it's just simply questions and unpacking things slowly. And then from there, when we kind of figure out the root of the fears and what kind of areas that the client wants to improve on, then from there, we'll start creating goals, or we'll go through like habit changing techniques. Yeah, it kind of, it depends on what it is. But yeah, I would say it's, like I said before, kind of like more interactive. And, there might be like little assignments that I give my clients outside of the actual coaching so that they can start almost helping themselves. Like I don't want my clients to ever have to need me for the rest of their lives consistently. Like I want to give them the tools that work for them by figuring out together what those tools are so they can continue on the path and, have me there as like a guide and accountability as needed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so much about just talking it over with someone and have them ask the questions and have them maybe point out things that seem obvious, but like you don't really notice, you don't understand how easy it is that you just take someone else to like come in and be like, oh yeah, but what about that? And you're like, oh yeah.
I
know. Like I did some life coaching. I had some life coaching when I went to like a co-living, and it was like skill shares, and there was a life coach there. And so she did some sessions for me. And it was just a case of like, I basically just vomited a load of stuff at her and she would write notes and she would like repeat what I'd said back to me, but in a really concise way that made sense. And I hadn't even realized I'd said it because I was just like, blah, blah, blah. But like just hearing her pick out little nuggets and say them back to me, like that's all she was doing for some of it. And I was like amazed at how effective that was and how you don't really see things that are right in front of you because you've got all this other stuff going on in your head. So I think even that aspect of it alone is so worthwhile and so useful. So, and then you've got all the other stuff like the goal setting and stuff on top of it. So really great.
I know that's the magic that I was talking about. It's just so simple and you're like, oh my God, this is changing my life.
Yeah, like mind blown.
Yeah.
So I hear that you went through quite the transformation yourself, especially since your high school days. Is that right?
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to get deep.
Okay, good. I'm ready.
So yeah, we're going to go back to high school. Everyone's favorite time of life, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this was back in like 2000, I guess it would be like 2003 up to 7. So I had been bullied a lot in grade school, actually. So we'll go back a little farther. Just like how kids are, like my last name's Sexton. They would make fun of my last name, like, oh, Tricia Sex, like stupid things like that. But like when it happens a lot, it really gets kind of ingrained in yourself. So I was already like a little shaky going into high school. And then there was a lot of family stuff going on with my sister, and that didn't help the situation. I felt kind of like the focus was on my sister and what was going on with her. And so I was just like going into high school more alone and with already like a rocky start internally. And I'm not going to go into details about this, but something then happened to me at the beginning of my freshman year that then just ramped up all of the bullying and the gossip and rumors. And so my confidence was just like shot. It was gone. My self-love wasn't there, no self-worth. I got diagnosed with depression, but I was like, self-soothing with like alcohol and weed and other kind of pills, and just kind of spiraling pretty quickly, not really doing good in school. I was like caught cheating on tests. Yeah. So that was kind of most of my time through high school. And after I graduated, I went straight into college, like a lot of people do, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I definitely didn't know who I was, but it was just what you did in my family. So I went to college and, I started hearing about like study abroad and that you could go somewhere else and do your schoolwork. And I was like, oh, I really want to do this. And I'm not really sure what sparked that in me. Like, we did family vacations when I was a kid, like to Florida and to Colorado and California, but nothing international really. And yeah, so I don't really know where this like interest came from, but I'm glad I had it. So I ended up talking to my advisor and I was like, hey, I want to do a study abroad for a semester. Like, what are my options? Can we explore this? And she was like, oh, if you do a whole semester, then these credits won't transfer and you'll actually be losing time. And then you might have to take another year. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I know. I'm like, I'm trying to like better myself here. So anyways, I ended up finding a summer long, or it was like not even a full summer, like a 6 weeks in Ireland. And I was like, okay, if that's what I can do and not be behind, let's do that. And that was my first time ever traveling solo. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I like this a lot. Like, of course, there were struggles and the fears and, times when I was homesick, all of that always came up. But I guess the fact that I was doing something that took a lot of courage and I did it on my own, it was like the first time that I had like this peak of like that confidence that I used to have. And I was like, ooh, I kind of remember this. And then from there, I was like, okay, I've caught the bug. I'm going to graduate, finish college. I had my last year. And then I went off to Tanzania to do volunteer work for like 2 months or so. And then that really got me the confidence, and I was starting to feel like this self-worth. It was just like little increments were coming out. And I really felt like I was empowering myself through going on these trips and going to these underdeveloped countries where not many people go. And I got to hang out in a local family's house and have lunch and like learn about coffee, and didn't know any Swahili at the time, not really. And being able to communicate without knowing the language, it gives you this sense of like, oh, I'm smart, I'm capable. And then I just continued and kept traveling. I went to Nepal for a couple years. I went back to Tanzania. I then was trying to find jobs that would bring me to other places. And all of those qualities that I wanted, but I didn't quite have, or, that I had lost in high school were just slowly coming to the surface. And then 2 years ago, when I started working with a life coach, it was like everything boomed. And now I'm this person that I actually wake up like grateful for who I am and what I have to offer in the world. And if you would have told 16-year-old Tricia that one day, this is how you'd be feeling, I just wouldn't have believed you. So I think having all those travel experiences mixed with this coaching was just like the perfect combination to bring out all of this wonder and all of these great kind of strong qualities within me, and this self-awareness to, when I am going through the tough times, to know that like, okay, this isn't where it ends. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. So feel the feelings, use the tools that you now have, and you can get out of it on your own, which, just kind of brings the confidence up even more. And I actually haven't really traveled since starting this life coaching. So I'm really excited to now see how I take in my experiences with all these new tools and this kind of new sense of self. So yeah, Europe will be that first time, I think. And yeah, I'm excited for it.
Sorry for the interruption, but I just have to tell you about Jessica Grace Coleman's new book, Intentional Travel Transformation. Boost your confidence, conquer your fears, and finally become the person you've always wanted to be, which is out now. This book is part memoir, part practical guide to help you transform yourself and your life through travel. Learn about Jessica's own tale of travel transformation, read unique transformation stories from the travel buddies she's met on the road, and make your way through her travel transformation framework, a method you can follow to create your very own bespoke travel transformation strategy. Your roadmap you can use to incorporate intentional travel into all your future trips. So, have you packed your bags yet? Because it's time to flip the script on your life and transform through travel. Get Intentional Travel Transformation now from Amazon, or head to www.traveltransformationcoach.com/books for more info. And now let's get back to the Travel Transformation Podcast.
Yay, that's really exciting. I had so many questions come up during there. I'm going to try and remember them all now. First of all, yeah, I relate really relate hard to what you just said, like the whole zero confidence, zero self-esteem thing in high school. I was like the quietest person ever. I would be terrified to like speak out in class. If I had to do a presentation, I would just like dread it for months, and it would just be like the worst thing ever. So zero confidence. And then similarly in uni, I did a year abroad in Colorado, actually. And that sort of started opening my eyes to what, I was capable of, like flying halfway around the world on your own. No one, you don't know anyone, and starting a new life where I hadn't really done anything like that before. And that set off, I think, my travel bug even more. So yeah, I can relate a lot to what you said. I want to ask, where in Ireland did you go? Because I love Ireland. So I'm just curious.
Well, we were in Dublin.
Nice.
That's where the university was that we were at. And oh my God, I love Ireland. Like, we went all over, on the weekends and stuff in our free time. So I definitely want to go back there.
Yeah, I love Dublin as well. And everywhere in Ireland, really. I need to do some more exploring of there as well. And what kind of volunteer work was it that you were doing when you first started?
So it was actually when I was studying in Ireland, one of my classmates had just come from, I think, Morocco, volunteering with with an organization. So she was telling me all about it. And I was like so naive at the time. I was like, oh my God, you can just go to like anywhere in Africa and volunteer. She was like, yeah, like it was amazing. So she gave me the organization's name, Cross Cultural Solutions. I don't think they're running anymore, but yeah, she was like, and if you want like the like what you think of Africa experience, go to Tanzania. She had went there a few years before with this organization. So I did that, and they set me up in a school teaching English. But I was like, I'm not a teacher. Like, I don't know how to do this. I just know the language. So they were like, well, just go, and there's different, age groups that's like from preschool and up. So, you can go see the different classrooms, see which ones you like, how you can help. And I actually ended up staying with like the preschoolers because I could just teach them like nursery rhymes and like animals. And they were so just like fun to play with. So yeah, that also helped with my confidence. I was like shaking my first day walking into the school, like, oh my God, I don't know their language. Like, how am I supposed to teach them? And and then by the end of it, like we were learning the little teapot song.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it was kind of like the project throughout the time I was there to learn that song. And then on my last day, they all like stood up and did the song with all of the little motions that you do with it. So it was so cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I did consider doing a similar thing, but again, like fear stopped me from doing so much stuff, which is like my whole life until recently when I started this whole travel transformation stuff. But yeah, I would have been the same. I would have been so nervous going in, like not knowing the language and that kind of thing. Did you have any other like culture shocks when you went there? Anything that you would sort of label as that?
I can't really remember ever feeling like a huge culture shock when I would go to a country, but when I would come home back to Ohio, I got really bad reverse culture shock, and I had grown so much. And then I come back where all my friends are kind of the same, doing the same thing. They don't understand what I experienced. And that's, I get it. That's understandable. So it was just kind of hard to like relate to people. And yeah, I think I really struggled with that more than the actual like being in the country.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I find a lot of people say that it's when they come home that they sort of have all their sort of anti-culture shock, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Nepal there as well. So you lived there for 2 years, is that right?
Yes.
So were you volunteering then? Were you working? How did that work?
So I got a job working for a volunteer organization similar to the one that I went to Tanzania with. They're called Projects Abroad. I think they're still running. Yeah, I was a volunteer coordinator, and I got paid. It was like a $400 a month stipend, like not a lot, but they gave you housing, and you could like expense like taxis if you were going somewhere for work and stuff. So yeah, that was so much fun. I lived in an apartment we had two apartments like in this one building, and there were 6 of us living 3 in one, 3 in another. And we just had such a good time. Like, we were living in Kathmandu, the capital city. And actually, speaking of culture shock, I think that was when I did have more culture shock than in any other place, because just the amount of pollution and traffic, like I was like, oh my God, how am I going to live here? Like, it was very intense. And there's like so many like wild dogs around, and which is sad. And most of them are sweet, but sometimes, it got a little crazy with them like running up to you, and that took some time. But then once I kind of got accustomed to it, maybe it took like 3 or 4 months. But then I was like, I love this city. Like there's temples everywhere, like even tucked like into the wall, like on a street that I would walk down every day. And then one day I would just notice it, like, oh my God. And Hinduism is the main religion there. And people would just on their way to work, like ring the bell at the temple, like do their prayer and then continue on to work. It was kind of cool to see it as more of a lifestyle than just like a religion. Yeah. So I was a volunteer coordinator. So I was taking care of the volunteers that came to work, mainly at like the schools, and we had some like rehab centers that we had people at. So that was what I did.
Cool. And how did you find that? Did you just like look online, or was it a word of mouth thing again?
Google. Yeah. I was just like, I gotta keep traveling. Like I need to make money doing it. So yeah, I just looked online, and I was in, I think it was South Carolina for my cousin's wedding when I got an email saying, hey, we want to do an interview. Can you do it within the next like 2 days? So I think we were about ready to leave that morning. So I just like did the interview in like a little room somewhere. And then they were like, oh my God, great. We love you. We'll be in touch soon with like your follow-up interview. So I'm like, okay, great. I get an email. We're in the car now. We were driving there. So we had like an 8-hour drive, and I get an email saying, hey, this is the owner. I think it was, would you be able to do an interview with me like in an hour? And I was like, yeah, are you okay with me being in the car, like on my phone? They're like, yeah. So I had my second interview in the car. It went well. And then like 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Nepal for a year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, I love this. A lot of people sort of want to do this kind of thing, but they don't know where to start. They don't know how they'd make it work. But you've done so many different things with like volunteering and working, and then the digital nomad thing and everything. And I love that you just went to Google and just saw what happened. And then like a lot of people just wouldn't think to do that maybe, or, you know, they're not aware of how many types of like businesses or like companies are out there that do this kind of stuff. And all it takes is a quick Google, and you might find yourself on a plane to Tanzania or Nepal. And yeah, I love that. Just it's kind of giving people permission to just do a little Google search and see what happens and see where it goes.
Yeah, if you have that determination, you can figure it out.
Yeah. It's all about the mindset, definitely. Now, you also have your own podcast, Messy Action.
I do. It is on a little bit of a hold right now.
But there are episodes that people can listen to.
Yes, I think there's 8 episodes out. It's kind of similar to yours. It's about transforming through travel. I have guests on as well, and I'll ask them to tell a specific travel story that changed their life in some way. And then, kind of ask questions as they come up and delve deeper into it. And there are also episodes of just me talking about a specific story of when I was traveling. So I think it's fun and interesting, and hopefully it inspires more people to travel intentionally and get that transformation.
Yeah, great. And that's Messy Action, and I will put the link in the show notes as well. Now, I talk about magical movie moments, which are like brief moments in time that feel like a sort of magical scene from a movie for whatever reason. And personally, I think we have the opportunity to experience way more of these when we're traveling and meeting new people and doing new things. So do you have a magical movie moment that pops to mind?
So, yeah, when you asked me, or, in the email told me about this, several popped into my mind, but the first one that did is, I don't know, it was a very special moment, but it's like so like simple, I would say, that I was like, I wonder if this would be considered like a magical movie moment, but we're going to go with it.
Let's go with it. Let's go with it.
All right, let me paint you the picture.
Okay.
So, well, I guess I should also say that when I was in Nepal working, my contract was like a little over a year, like a year and 4 months or something. And after that contract was done, one of my colleagues and we moved down to another area of Nepal called Chitwan, which is kind of right on the border of India. And she was starting a social enterprise for a waste management system in that area, and was working with a Nepalese family and like a cooperative down there. So I was helping her to kind of get that started and work on that with her. So we were living in the top floor of this Nepalese family's home in kind of like this rural part of Nepal. And so, we were on the top floor. So we had this beautiful view of like the rice fields and the other homes and just kind of the country land. It was really beautiful. And one night, we would sometimes like watch movies on our computer and just hang out. And I remember we were laying in her bed and watching a movie, and it started to rain like it didn't think anything of it. And then this huge lightning storm started happening. And we were like, what is going on? So we like opened the window and just kind of poked our head out. And there were like these huge lightning bolts all over the sky, just like constantly. It was probably the biggest thunder or lightning storm I've ever seen. And I'm from the Midwest where that's like a common thing. So I was like blown away, and we were just like silent, just like in awe, just watching the sky light up. Lightning storms are so magical and intense. And it just kind of like took our breath away. Like we were just like not speaking for a while, like enraptured in this sky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was just like a really cool moment to have with my friend in this house in the middle of the countryside of Nepal. It was just kind of like all these random little experiences and like where my life was at. And we were having this really cool moment with nature.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I can picture it on the big screen. Like it definitely sounds like an awesome scene from a movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, usually it is like little simple things like that just everything clicks into place and you're just like, wow, like what am I doing here? How did I get here? This is amazing. And yeah, definitely I've had similar things like that, not the lightning storm. That sounds really cool. But yeah, I think it just makes you stop and think about all the steps it took for you to get to this point, like this really random point in this totally different country where you're like with this person and having this moment. And I think it's just, yeah, really, really cool and makes you think.
What's one of your magical movie moments?
I've got a list of them, and now you've asked me, my mind's gone blank. But yeah, usually it is something really simple. Like last time I was in Spain in the Basque Country, I was in a co-living house, and the guy rented a boat for us all, like just like a little cheap boat to go out on the water. And it was like beautiful weather, sun shining. And we were like, all my housemates were just really cool, like had a great time with them. And I love the water. I love being on boats. Like it's just my like happy place. So I went right to the front and got like a good spot right on the bow. It was just a little boat. So like when it went over the waves, you'd have like the, water splashing you in the face and stuff. And we were drinking wine, but all we had to drink out of were these like little jam jars because we didn't have any like plastic cups at the house to bring with us. So
Perfect.
Very classily, drinking wine out of jam jars. And then we were going along, sun shining, the like breeze and the water like flashing in my face. And I could hear my housemates like laughing behind me. And then someone put on some country music, and I love country music. And I was just like zooming along at the front of this boat with my jam jar of wine, with the country music blaring, and all my housemates laughing and having a great time. And I was just like, this is the life. Like, this is it. Like, like it doesn't take much to make me happy. It just needs some sun, like a boat.
Yes.
Some wine, some country music. It was just like one of those scenes.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah, and you could just imagine it being on a movie, just like it's just a very simple scene of someone just like sitting there and just like slowly smiling and just thinking, yeah, I could get used to this.
Yeah.
Like it's just little things like that. Something that I would never do if I was, at home, not traveling. I don't often go on boats generally. So,
Yeah.
it was kind of like a treat. And yeah, just little things like that really make you sort of grateful for all the opportunities you have to travel. And, when so many people can't. So, and yeah, just little things like that. I really like that. So I love your story. That's really cool. So just before we go, I just wanted to ask about your one-on-one coaching services. You've obviously mentioned them, but who are they for specifically? You said you don't really have like a niche for your life coaching. So will you literally work with anyone, or do they have to fit into a specific category? And if people want to work with you, how do they find you online, and how do they start the process?
Yeah, like I said, for life coaching, if you are struggling with something or you have a goal that you want to achieve and you're not really sure where to start, if you have a relationship that you want to improve, and want the tools for that. If you have a career change or you want to have a career change or you just want to make your career more fulfilling, anything like that, come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like with the travel coaching, I already mentioned this, but if you're wanting to move to another country or you want to go travel for long periods of time, or maybe you're even you already moved, but you just want to get more out of your experience, or you want to have the tools to kind of process through things as they come up, I would love to help with that. And I do offer free consultations on Zoom. So we'll start there and see what happens. You can get in touch with me. My Instagram is the best. That's where I'm on a lot. I kind of use that as like my website. So you can either DM me on there. There's also in my bio, there's a link to fill out like an application form. It's just like basically a contact form letting me know you're interested, and then I'll email you from there.
Great. So that's your Instagram, and we'll put this in the show notes. What's your handle on Instagram?
Coach_Tricia_.
Great. And we will link to that. So if people go there and then click the link in your bio, they'll be able to find the form to fill in if they're interested.
And also if like you don't want coaching, but you want to like, I don't know, talk about travel. I always love talking about travel and life and interesting topics. So even feel free to reach out just as a friend.
Nice. So just give you a DM on Instagram.
Yeah. Slide into my DMs.
Slide into her DMs. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Jess. Yeah, it was so nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and spread the word if you have friends or family who also want to transform through travel. For a chance of winning one of my books in ebook form, please review this podcast on Apple Podcasts and send a screenshot or just your name to info@traveltransformationcoach.com or @traveltransformationcoach on Instagram. I'll be picking a new winner each month, and you can choose between any of my non-fiction titles, including Write Your Life, Write Your Year, and Intentional Travel Transformation. You can find out more about me at traveltransformationcoach.com, where you can also get your free travel transformation guide. And until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.